She opened the curtains briskly and gave an Eskimo kiss. Her soft skin brushing against my nose, whispering softly, "Beamer, it's time to wake up." My older sister and I would sleep side by side on the big couch in the living room. I was 6. My sister had just turned 9 that September. Each night I tossed and turned. I never really got comfy and often woke up with numb limbs, groggy and cranky. After hearing my mom's soft whisper, I opened my eyes, squinting to try to prevent the morning light from entering my pupils. I did not succeed. My vision adjusted and I saw my mom clearly, her rosy cheeks, her long blonde hair slightly covered one of her olive green eyes. Today Mom wasn't her usual jittery self. Her jaw held steady as she smiled, and her eyes appeared brighter and wider. I didn't hear the sound of grinding teeth greeted by a jaw slip. Today I woke up with only the comforting sound of her voice. As my sister and I sat up with our legs crossed and blankets still intertwined, my tummy started growling, my mouth already felt dry. Pizza leftovers, usually crust, would fill our bellies most mornings for breakfast. But this morning, when we wake up with an empty box. Still parched, I reached over my sister for one of the almost empty cans of soda and took a sip, only to be surprised by the unpleasant taste of a cigarette-flavored, flattened RC Cola. Ugh, I squirmed as I spit it back into the can. "What, is there a fly in it?" my mom exclaimed. Without hearing my response, she ran into her room and found a bottle of water. "Here you go, sweetie." She opened the top and handed it to me. Holding the bottle with both hands, I took a few long sips before passing it to my sister. I stayed seated while my mother went through large black trash bags full of clothes and sniffed them one by one. Once she found something for me to wear, she got me dressed and brushed my hair with only her fingers. "Do you need to go potty before you go to school?" my mom asked. I responded with a brisk shake of my head. Although I needed to, no was always my answer. "Come on, sweetie, we'll be quick," she continued. And so, I unwillingly went with my mom into the backyard. I had to go into a large white bucket. I hated this. But the water got shut off, and Mom said it wasn't safe to use the toilet anymore, and we couldn't get sick. She held up a towel to cover me with one hand, and the other arm steady. "I'm so sorry, I will get the water back on soon." My mom said she was sorry a lot and often about almost everything. I knew she meant it. With an empty belly, backpack in tow, off we went to school. I arrived and sat quietly in the classroom, eavesdropping on the chatter and giggles of my fellow first graders. I remember I wanted to join, but I knew not to. My dirty clothes, apparent lack of showers, and matted hair made me the target of many insults. The other children made it painfully obvious that I wasn't like them. I was a stinky girl. At recess, the girls and boys separated into groups on the playground. I found entertainment alone in the corner of the playground with a patch of grass, dirt, and plants. I dug up worms and roly-polies, made the trails in the mud for them to follow, and raced them against each other. This patch of earth in the playground was next to a solid circle of black asphalt. The pavement had painted white lines that designated circular lanes. The boys and girls pedaled round and round on their tricycles, following their individual lanes. I was constantly distracted by the sounds of the pedals swishing by, and would stop and watch. But today, there it was, an available tricycle. I ran toward it and sat down. I placed my feet on the pedals and off I went. I closed my eyes and felt the breeze against my cheeks, the warmth of the sun against my eyelids. The moment I stopped pedaling, the taunting began. "Don't use that one, it has cuties and lice," as if I needed a reminder of why my hair had been cut into a bowl shape only months earlier. I didn't say a word. My eyes didn't leave the pavement, and I went back to what I knew, my little patch of dirt. After recess, our teacher assigned a special project for us. We were to bring in seeds, cotton balls, and a jar of class the following day. The purpose of these items was to grow a plant. "How many of you garden at home?" the teacher asked. A sea of hands shot up around me. I looked around the room, paused, and before I could mimic my classmates, the next question began. "Whom do you garden with?" the teacher continued. In unison, all my classmates responded, "My mom," as if rehearsed. Clearly, I missed that one. Leaving class that day, our teacher proceeded to pin a note to each one of our backpacks. When it was my turn, she paused and slowly kneeled down. "Crystal, make sure you give this to your parents, okay?" I nodded and was on my way. My sister and I walked home together from school every day. We bickered a lot, but today she was mostly quiet. She sternly held my hand while crossing streets and briskly let go when our feet met the curbs. She was always in such a hurry to get home, only to leave me at the front gate and continue on to her neighboring home. She didn't return until later in the night with her backpack loaded with pogs. Spoiled victory, I suppose. The gate to my house was metal. On each side of the gate there were 2 paradise plants. They were the only plants that seemed to thrive in the dry dirt, aside from the heap of tall weeds. I walked through the front door and slipped my backpack off my shoulder onto the floor. As I did, the paper that was pinned to it caught my attention. I removed it and went to my mother's bedroom. "Mom?" No response. I slowly opened the door to her bedroom. It made an eerie, creaking noise. I peeked my head in and saw that her and her boyfriend were soundly asleep. I knew she wouldn't wake up. My mother and her boyfriend spent most afternoons and evenings hunched over the dresser, staring at mirrors, lost in clouds of white smoke and consumed by black tar on spoons. When night fell, they woke up. She made me peanut butter and jelly sandwich. I scarfed down my breakfast, lunch, and dinner before she even managed to sit down. She wiped the crumbs off my lap, kissed my cheek, and held me tight. She would always make an effort to ask me how my day went, but I rarely had much to say. I remembered the note and handed it to her. She read it in silence, smiled, and walked to the kitchen, scooping up my backpack on the way. In my backpack, she placed a single brown bead and some cotton balls. The next day at school, we were all asked to take out the items requested. I looked around at the other students' desks and saw nicely decorated jars, neatly packaged cotton balls, and store-bought seeds. I had a lowly, pathetic brown bean and a small pile of loose cotton balls. I immediately and uncontrollably burst into tears. How could I grow a plant that would be just as special as my classmates' plants? Why didn't I have a specially decorated jar? Or, for that matter, why didn't I have a jar? Why didn't I have specially packaged store-bought seeds? My teacher tried to console me and settle me down, but the tears had now turned into a loud wailing. I couldn't catch my breath at this point, and in the background I heard someone faintly say, "Here goes the crybaby again." The teacher grabbed my hand and walked me out of the classroom. Outside, I calmed down enough to explain my agony. "What's the matter?" she asked me. I stood in silence for a moment. I tried to prevent my sentence from breaking up into words in between my crying breaths. I explained that my mother forgot the jar. I explained how I had a bean and not a packet of seeds. That bean will make a good plant, just as good as the plants that come with a package of seeds. It only needs a little water, care, and I have a wonderful jar for you. I didn't fully believe her words, but gained enough courage for them to return to the classroom. We went back inside, and all my classmates gave me the look I had become so accustomed to. Be similar to the way you look at an albino peacock. My teacher handed me a jar with a fiber peak bow tied around it, and I quickly disregarded the negative attention. I soaked the cotton in water and placed it in a jar. The bean tucked gently into the center of the cotton. We placed the jars on the table by the window. I checked in my jar every day. I converted the jars surrounding it. As life began to emerge from the other jars around mine, I began to wonder if mine would ever sprout. After what seemed like years, a small leaf sprouted, and then a stem. Before you knew it, it was a tiny, green, healthy plant. The day came when we could take our little plants home. I walked home slowly, barely able to keep up with my sister. I was washing my jar carefully, trying my best not to damage my fragile little plant. I imagined making my barren front yard into a beautiful garden, just like the movie Secret Garden. I could hardly wait to get home and propose the idea to my mother. I placed my darling plant on the front porch and flung the front door open. "Mom, Mom!" There was no response. I opened her bedroom door slowly and observed my mother, once again, in a deep slumber. I tried being louder than usual. I tried calling her every now and again, until I finally went by the door. As they went tonight, I listened in for any sound that told me she was finally awake. And in between the sounds of coughs and snoring resonating from her room, I also fell asleep. I never did plant it, and remained on the porch until it dried.